powerful my guest was. And I want to thank my next guest here for coming on the show. Turquoise Thompson, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. And please introduce your parents.
We're here with my parents, Don and Lori Thompson.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming in. I want to say I prayed to God for someone like you to come into my life to help with this conversation.
Oh, wow.
I experienced the sickle cell trait exertion, and a lot of conversations been going on in the world about how sickle cell trait has its complications. And I wanted to be able to share a more powerful success story on how someone living with sickle cell. So please share with them who you are.
Okay. My name is Turquoise Thompson. I'm a UCLA alumni. I just graduated about 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I have my BA in sociology, and I have an education minor along with that. Finished college in 3.5 years.
What?
And I ran for the track team at UCLA.
How'd you do in 3.5 years? No sleep?
You could say that. I did a lot of summer school.
Yeah, okay.
Unlike most people, I did 2 and 3 classes each summer.
Wow.
I really wanted to get through and get out of school quick.
Wow. Okay, so before we get to today, how was it, your first knowledge of sickle cell trait?
Okay, so I first discovered, well, my mom told me I had sickle cell trait when I had to get my nose cauterized. We were walking out, and she just told me, like, oh, yeah, by the way, you have sickle cell trait. I don't know, that might be why your nose bleeds all the time and we're here, or it might not be. So that's when I first remember even knowing anything about it.
Right.
She wasn't that informed. That's just going back in time for there was no information on it. And so I wasn't that informed. And then it didn't come back into my life until I had a crisis at school during training.
Wow.
My sophomore year.
Okay.
And I just graduated, so that was 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I was in the locker room, and I had the crisis. I was in the locker room crying. I was alone, and I was just frustrated at the fact that I keep having these muscle spasms. I can't get through practice, and I just felt kind of helpless. And lo and behold, there was a fact sheet right there in the locker room that said sickle cell trait. And I said, oh, wow, like I have this. I remember my mom told me I have this, like, let's read about it. So I looked over the fact sheet, and I promise you, like, I went down the fact sheet, and everything there, it was like a checklist for me. It talked about how if you do fast spurts, fast sprints, you can't hang, you're too tired, you need more rest. It talked about how you always get cramps if you're dehydrated. Just everything on there. It talked about having exercise-induced asthma, which I have. Yeah. So it was really just like a checklist, like, this is why I'm going through this.
Wow.
And so then we formulated a meeting with my parents and my coaches and the trainers at the school, and tried to come up with some ways to go about training with sickle cell trait and being successful.
Now, you started running track before college, so how was it running at Sarah? Like, how was those experiences?
Well, I pulled my hamstring my sophomore year in high school, so that was my first issue with, like, my muscles. After that, which is at Sarah, a little bit at Poly, I would have these crises where it was just my hamstring. They weren't necessarily getting pulled again from the first pull, but they were spasming, or they were having spasms. They were aching. They were just a problem. Both of my hamstrings, back and forth, back and forth. Yeah. And my other muscles too, but mainly my hamstrings. So that was just a main thing, and it was always an issue. I don't know how many days throughout the week I had to tell my mom, like, my hamstring hurts. Yeah. Like, I really can't finish practice, or I have to get on the grass. I can't keep up with the girls today. Yeah. So
now let's talk about some of the success that you've accomplished. Let's talk about those accomplishments. Run the hurdles, like, name them, please.
Okay. So I do the 400-meter hurdles. I have been a 2-time Pac-12 champion. I've been a 2-time NCAA runner-up, losing by a thousandth of a second, a hundredth of a second.
What?
I have been to the Olympic trials. I got 6th place last year.
Huge.
Thank you. And then this year, I just finished at the USA national competition. It's basically like Olympic trials, but Olympics are only every 4 years.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the same thing, but with a different name.
Yeah.
I got 6th place again. So
huge.
Yeah.
Huge accomplishments.
Thank
Huge accomplishment. Now, just a little bit about how this is so amazing. My mental health provider, Ashley, he is the one that empowered, like, gave me the light to be an advocate. Like, share that you can not just have your sports brand, but you can also use your sports brand to support your cause by being a speaker about sickle cell.
Right.
Well, when I contacted you, he was the one that saw your article in the LA Times. It was like, hey, you need to contact Turquoise. I'm like, oh, who is that? I don't know who that is. And then when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is the prayer. This guy has been so instrumental in my life as far as supporting me in what I'm up to in sickle cell. Like, when I was in my mental health meeting with him, him and his colleagues wrote this book about college, student athlete going to college.
Really?
And when he came, he wasn't supposed to be there. My normal provider was on vacation. Well, he was a stand-in. And when I sat down with him, he's like, what are you going to do when you retire? I'm like, well, God bless me with a sports brand. I'll probably sell some T-shirts, hang out, sit on the dock of the bay, watch the tires roll away, whatever, right? He's like, well, let me show you something. So he opened up his book, and he had a page about athletes and having sickle cell trait exertion. I'm like, so you understand what I went through? He's like, yeah, it happens. And so that guy has been instrumental. And I want to thank him for being that person.
What a blessing.
And then he, like I said, he found you, and he's like, you need to find out who she is. And to hear your story was such success as having the trait, and even be like I said, it doesn't define you.
No,
like,
not at
I'm
all.
excited. I don't even know what to. It's so exciting for you to be here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
No,
I
thank you.
appreciate it.
Now I want to talk to your parents.
Sure.
Having the sickle cell trait, what is that? How does that show up for you in the world and her health, and being an athlete the way she is?
Well, I'm definitely concerned every time she's on the track, because these things can happen, especially with her running for UCLA, running on a national level. She travels a lot. She goes to different places. And as you know, wherever you are, your surroundings, if you're in altitude, if you're in Texas and it's extremely hot, she can have some instances where she can actually collapse, fall out, not even be able to compete.
Right.
So, of course, that's, a concern of mine. I'm glad that we were able to, number one, that they did have a checklist in the locker room at UCLA where she was able to see that, oh, this is a relation that I need to deal with, this issue. And we were able to sit down with the doctor at UCLA, the trainers, as Turquoise said, and the coaches, and be able to, have her training regimen a little different than it was. So that definitely helped. But it's always a concern when she's out there on the track. She's real gutsy. She wants to do it all. Very talented, and we respect that. But as a mom, I'm always concerned.
Of course.
She'll tell you, I'm always calling her, hydrate, do this, do that. So very concerned. What I would like to see out of the entire awareness is, number one, I was 29 years old when I was pregnant with Turquoise, and the doctor, basically said, oh, your daughter has sickle cell trait, and just make sure that she doesn't marry someone else who has sickle cell trait, so they won't have a child that has sickle cell.
Right.
Gave me a pamphlet, and that was it.
Yeah. And
it wasn't until she started experiencing some, minor situations that I actually found out, okay, this is something we need to be concerned about.
Right.
So I'm hoping that, later on down the line, when Turquoise becomes a big advocate for sickle cell trait, that we can get some other things in line for young, parents and experienced parents, that gives them more information on, how to deal with certain situations. Because the bottom line was, my daughter had sickle cell trait. she was always a competitor since youth. That she started running at 5 years old.
Right.
And all of that time, all of that exertion, all of that, through, something could have happened to her, and we would have had no knowledge as to the connection as to why it happened. And so, hopefully we'll find a way to get more information to the youth, to athletes, to coaches, to trainers, all the way around, so that this won't become like some who have actually had the sickle cell trait and has died from it.
Exactly. Now you're in athletics as well, right?
I am a former coach now, just retired.
Yeah,
June
I
1st.
saw that. Congratulations on your retirement.
Yes,
I'm right behind you. Now, working with other students, did anything like that ever show up with?
Nothing in the high school era about the, of course, they don't have the monies to get tested. Like NCAA now has mandatory testing for sickle cell trait.
Yeah.
Basically, that is, to cover and make sure that they are not going to be sued for anything that happens to you when you have the knowledge that you have sickle cell trait. You have to actually sign a waiver to compete.
Right.
So that's how serious it is. That they know that the exertion that you sustain out there can possibly lead you to collapse or die.
Right.
So they don't have that in high school, of course. There's no money for that kind of testing. And it all falls back on, again, does your parents know? Are you aware of what's going on? And so when the kids come up and they want to run track on the team, my first question is not, do you have sickle cell trait?
Right.
And it's just unfortunate.
Right.
And when something happens, then, you take a look at, okay, this is going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, sir, you also are related to sports, but how was it, having the sickle cell trait yourself and then, sharing that with your daughter?
I don't know that I even found out I had sickle cell trait until Turquoise was I guess, conditioned with it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an issue with me coming up, but I do know that apparently the sickle cell trait came from my side of the family.
Yeah.
Because I do have cousins who have it.
Yeah.
And I actually have a cousin who passed away from it.
Yeah.
So it's tough to deal with. Turquoise is my hero. I don't know how she's been able to do what she's done thus far, knowing that she has a trait.
Yes.
But I believe there needs to be some studying done on a collegiate level, especially because that's, I think, is where people get to the point to where their training and their regiment demands that they have some knowledge about what it is they're doing.
Exactly.
I can remember having gone to UCLA myself. They used to have all these studies for everything you can imagine.
Right.
I'm like, why don't they have a study for sickle cell trait? They got tons of athletes out here training on the level that you would be accustomed to, if you were getting ready to go into the professional level.
Exactly.
What a better place to, to test for it and have studies for this.
Yeah. And even with an athletic level, you have people who go to the gym, who everything is fitness now. Everything is get in shape.
Absolutely.
And what about the normal person who's at the gym trying to get in their cardio together and collapse? I remember when my doctor deemed that I couldn't run anymore, I could push up sit-ups, but I got on a treadmill, and then when I got done, I felt like I'd been on a roller coaster ride all day. Mm-hmm. And he was like, you know what, you just can't run anymore. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I can, in the military we have other, if you can't run, you can do the bicycle, the walk, the swim. I figured that they'd give me one of those profiles to do that. Mm-hmm. But they found me, you're not fit for service at all. Wow. And I was like, that's not cool, because I could probably still speed walk, but I just can't run,
Yeah.
And being an athlete, playing basketball and have my stress relief, like when all that was taken away, it was difficult. But what about those people who just want to go to the gym? They need to be aware,
Absolutely.
So it's a global, just an human being function that to find out about the trait.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, when you were in sports as well, did you have any friends or anything or students that show up that had any kind of?
No, not to my knowledge. Obviously the fact that Turquoise mentioned that she wasn't even informed about what kind of issues she would have with having sickle trait on a collegiate level. That means further down the line or years back, they knew even less about it.
Yeah.
When she found out that she had it, I tried to do some research on the internet, and I saw that they actually had athletes that were dying from it.
Right.
And that just made my heart drop, because I thought, that was going to prevent her from being what, she had a God-given talent to do.
Exactly.
But I also couldn't, like I told you earlier, I couldn't find anything out there that gave us any kind of comfort that she would be able to do that based on any kind of studies that have been done.
Exactly. Let's see. We got a caller. Excuse me. You're live. What's the count? You're live. What's the count?
Hi. How are you?
I'm fine.
Hey, this is Fiona. How's
Hey,
everybody doing
Fiona.
today?
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Hey, thanks for calling in. Fiona was going to call in earlier. She's going to do a sickle cell poem. We're going to take a few minutes for her to do that poem.
Sure.
I'm ready when you are.
Oh, okay. All right, well, pleasure. I'm watching as well on the Ustream, so I'm listening to the conversations, and a lot of the stuff is pretty interesting. There's a lot of things that I'm learning from you guys right now as well. I really enjoy the conversations that you're having.
Okay. Do you have any questions for him?
I do. Like, how is it with running? Because I used to do sports as well. I used to play volleyball, did a little bit of basketball, but then, of course, I was getting sick a lot, and I had to stop the sport. Well, I have a sickle cell anemia, I have a disease.
Okay.
But as far as having the trait, I wasn't too familiar about side effects with the trait, and I've always grown up thinking that the trait doesn't do anything to you. But for your to your knowledge, what do you think really impacts you as well for running and doing sports and athletic activities?
The biggest thing that impacts me when I'm training and running is definitely my hydration. I have to stay hydrated at all times. I can never be dehydrated, or I'm definitely going to have an episode. I'm definitely going to have a crisis. I'm definitely not going to be able to practice that day. I have to have better nutrition. I have to make sure I always have my inhaler when I go on longer runs. Like sometimes I do 20-minute runs on my own or 25-minute runs on my own. And honestly, sometimes I literally almost pass out, and I always have to have my inhaler because I can pass out because of the sickle cell trait, because I have exercise-induced asthma due to having the sickle cell trait, and all of that just goes into factor. And so, yeah, mainly the biggest thing for me personally as an athlete with sickle cell trait is my hydration, and that's a big thing, and just being careful about the different altitudes I run in. When I go to Texas, in this extreme heat, I have crazy episodes out there. Like, my episodes could get so crazy, I could be in tears during warm-up, like afraid that I'm going to have an episode on the track.
Wow.
Oh, wow. And I heard you talking about the training for the Olympics as well. Is that something that you're able to do with the limitations from the trait?
I'm actually doing okay with my training. I have a lot of things under control as far as my regimen and my routine for having sickle cell trait and being able to still be successful. So I have it under control, and I'm able to compete at very high levels. I'm able to train at very high levels. But the main thing is communication with my coaches, because, sometimes I do have to stop, or sometimes I do have to let them know we might have to make some alterations to whatever workouts you have today because I'm feeling this in my hamstring, or I'm feeling this in my calf, or whatever it is. It's a lot of communication.
And they respect that, of course.
Definitely, because they don't want to see me get hurt or anything, and the fact that they know I can typically drop dead out there because practice was too hard.
Yeah.
They're definitely gonna listen to me.
Yeah.
Right, that's true. I had a few of that as well. From, I guess, my high school years, I was actually medically excused from all PE classes because of episodes I had during middle school.
Oh, wow.
And I heard, I think it was a caller before you, but we have similar mothers that do not play with their children in school and activities.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom pretty much got to the point where she got the school to excuse me medically from any PEs after, I think it was starting in 9th grade and after that.
Right. Yeah, that's
But
crazy.
I tried to
that
play
you had
sports,
to be
I really enjoy it. And it's hard to know that, with our limitations that we have to have more control over what we do and how far we go with it.
Right, exactly.
Wow. That's interesting. Fiona, just you gonna stay on the line for a second?
Yeah, I'll be on the line.
Okay. Turquoise, what do you want? And your mom shared with the importance of knowing, but what do you want the world to know about sickle cell trait?
I just want the world to know that sickle cell trait is out there, and definitely I want the African American community to really understand that it's out there. Because like the young lady mentioned before, it's an invisible kind of thing. Not a lot of people know about it. Not a lot of people are aware. And if they are aware, they're not as aware as they should be.
Right.
There should be more literature. There should be more outreach, and just having people understand what it is and how to look for it, how to live with it, and just screening is the main thing for me. I'm really heavily involved in sports, so I would like to, maybe have them screen earlier children, because children usually start sports very young,
right?
Maybe in elementary, some in middle school. So if they could catch it early, knowing they have the sickle cell trait or even the sickle cell disease, it would be great for them going on about their life, because you could have kids like me who didn't really grasp the fact and understand the fact that they had sickle cell trait until they got to college.
Exactly.
And now you have to make all these alterations. You have to learn all these new things that I could have known years ago.
Thank you. Now, I want you to know that that's what my organization I've created is a sickle cell trait prevention, and mobile testing is what I want to create. Making the parents, the coaches, even the military aware, re-educating the community about sickle cell trait. So I would love to have you, if you want to partner and have these conversations in the world, in the community, at the elementary schools, at the junior high schools. Right. We've created high school tours around the country, around the city. So if you want a piece of that, want that voice, I would love to have you
honored
to be a part of that. And then your parents too, because it's very important. My mom, she didn't have the trait, but my dad did, and she had no idea that what happened to me was even possible. Mm-hmm. So my mom is very involved. My parents are involved, and I have other advocates also, even from in Florida, like Fiona.
Right.
I partner with a lot of people because sickle cell trait is the key. I mean, that's if the people with the trait are aware of their gene, we could prevent that another child from being born with the disease.
Exactly.
And as in a conversation, not stop them, but at least they have an informed choice. And that's what I want to, disappear the ignorance around that. Mm-hmm. And if they do decide to have a child, then they are aware of what the experience is going to be. They can prepare what hospital to go to, the hematologist to look for, instead of just going to the hospital and finding out, what is sickle cell.
Right. Exactly.
So I'd be honored to have you, have your voice.
I would be honored.
So thank you, Fiona.
Yes.
I got a few minutes. Can you do the spoken word piece for me?
All right, you ready for me now?
Yes, please.
Perfect. All right, well, this piece is titled Gone Like the Wind. It's pretty much a narrative of my 2 years of not being ill in the hospital. I moved to South Florida about 2 years ago, and I haven't had an episode that caused me to be hospitalized until recently. And that sparked me to write this piece. So here we go. Gone like the wind. He was gone like the wind one Monday morning. For 2 years we declared ourselves one, but him and the sun had other plans. Sometimes I was only left with the moon at night to keep me company from his loss, but the misery I felt was unbearable. I think the stars were jealous of us. If smiles were dollars, we'd have more than them, because for 2 years the wind and I were one, and he made me feel like Superwoman. He made me feel I could fly as he flew, go wherever we wanted to go, and do whatever we wanted to. No repercussions, we would just do. He taught me the world and everything he knew, so for 2 years I held on to you with a grip so tight not even kryptonite could pry me loose. Instead, intense pain and iron overload took you away. Like a husband unfaithfully, you couldn't wait for me, but I soon learned quickly the wind holds on for no one. So instead, head down, I cry. Fearing starting over, but I still swear I hear you tapping on my window at night. Man, do I miss the days that we played, but I'm ill with the tubes, pain, needles, and liquid pills, and an altering of my mental status. Round-the-clock tapping came from the nurses at my door, and I kept asking them, when can I see the wind? And she just looked at me confused and sorrowfully and said, honey, these massive walls and enclosed doors, the wind don't travel through here no more. So for 2 years I held on to you. We did everything and anything we wanted to. I slowed down and away you blew. I say goodbye to those 2 years, but I'll always love you. now trying to start anew, strong, resilient. But I know there'll always be another wind coming through. I simply just wanted to keep you.
Wow. Thank you.
That was
Nice.
awesome.
Very
Very
good.
good.
Thank
good.
you. Thank you. Thank you, Fiona, for that. I really
Thank you,
appreciate you. I met Fiona on social media on Facebook, and she was letting Facebook have it, and I was like, no, you're not gonna let them have it like that. What are you up to over there in Florida? And we had a conversation, and she wrote that and what do you write that in a couple of days?
I wrote that in like a weekend. You
Yeah.
put me on like a competition kind of thing.
So thank you for that, Fiona. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate
No
it.
problem.
too.
I really enjoyed
Thank
it. Thank
you.
you guys for having me.
Thanks for calling
All right.
in.
Well, my time is up. I just really, you guys are a blessing, your family. I thank you for coming on the show and sharing such a positive aspect of sickle cell trait
You're welcome.
and,
Thank you
and
for
your
having us.
and how you are with being with it. So I'm speechless, really. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
All right, this is WC Radio. I'm way over my time. I'll be back next Monday, July 8th.